part 2 of property values, and let's jump right into it. I don't want to waste any time. My name is Melissa Vass-Scott. I work with Frank Russimano, and we work at Zolo Realty. So we work at one of these coveted brokerages that use this information to provide you information. So it all began in 2011 when the Competition Bureau sued the Toronto Real Estate Board, otherwise known as Treb. This is something that I think you should all understand because in Ontario, Canada, all of our boards are municipally based and we are not all under one board. So you guys are getting all the data presented to you, which I'm sure you find very confusing because on the back end of things, we, believe it or not, have some boards that have access to some data. And then there's other boards that are called closed boards, and we can't access their data. So I would have to go on one of these sites in order to find information that could literally be one city next to us. So it's absurd that this has happened on the level that it has, and it's taken this long to get to where we are today. So 2011 Competition Bureau sued Treb. 2016, Treb was ordered to make Canadian home value data available to the general public. Through a series of back and forth appeals, 2018, finally, the data was made available, and you guys were able to see everything in essence of what we could see in a very basic way. So this information hurt a lot of realtors because in the old school way of dealing with things, a lot of these realtors would sort of rely on this coveted information, and you have to work with me this under the cloak in order to get them new clients, because if I hide all the information, then you need me. Well, that has never been the way that I've done business. That has never been the way that Frank has done business, because that is, as I jokingly say to Frank, I call those the schwarmy agents that kind of got to schmooze you to get you in to buy. And that is so not how I function. I believe that data should be made available to everybody, and it puts you into that position of power. And again, if you recall from my first series of videos on negotiation, the last person is always in the position of power. Now, when an offer goes back and forth. So consumers never had the ability to be in a position of power. They never had access to all of the data on this level. So now agents are really having to step up their game. So I believe and have always believed that in order to make informed decisions of buying $1 million house, because let's face it, that's pretty much what they're costing now. And the reality is with what CMHC has done, they've raised the rate so that first-time home buyers were only allowed to qualify up to $1 million home, and now they can qualify up to $1.5 million home. Dude, that information should be available. Like everybody should have access to that, because it's ridiculous that you can't make an informed decision. And I don't need to prove my worth to you by hiding information. I want to have educated conversations with you so that I can guide you through why a $1 million home in this neighborhood over here versus a $1 million home in that neighborhood over there, why this one is worse than that one. That's how Frank and I roll. Anyhow, let's talk about House Sigma, shall we? Because I don't want to say they're our competition, but here's the way it works. These places, most of them, I should say, House Sigma, Zolo, they are actually brokerages. So I'm going to talk about House Sigma because I work for Zolo, so I'll talk about House Sigma. House Sigma started by Joseph Zhang, really popular in the GTA, and then it really creeped out into the rest of Canada. It's definitely one of the number one sites, I think, that helps potential buyers make decisions. I also personally feel like Zolo is another really popular one, and Zillow. Like Zillow rocks for information as well. I look at these all the time. I have to tell you, I think that those sites, Zillow in particular, are easier to use than Realtor.ca. Take note of that, Realtor.ca people, whomever runs that, take note of that, because Zillow, boom, boom, information is there, you got it. And that's what people want. So I'm going to read this because I think it's important that we actually state the facts here. According to their website, House Sigma utilizes artificial intelligence technology to estimate Canadian home values in real time. So subjective, what is real time? Real time to me is when I call an agent up and I see that the property is no longer available for us to go in and look at because it has been marked ANS. They've got their deposit check and basically the conditions have been met, property is sold, and I know the value. That's real time because I call the agent up and find that out. There is a data lag between real time and the internet. So please note that because these numbers are to be used as a guide. I have seen, and Frank has seen, and we've actually done comparative analysis on this. We have seen dramatic differences with some of our listings when you look at a listing that we've had on Zillow, comparable to House Sigma, comparable to Zolo for home valuations. So what does that tell you? That's very confusing to you as the consumer, and I don't like that. But it does arm you with a toolkit that you otherwise wouldn't have had. So ultimately, I would say that these apps, they can't take into key elements into consideration within the home buying process, but they can't take in these key elements. A buyer's emotion. They can't take that in. An app can't tell you how you feel when you walk into a house. It can't, call me woo-woo, it can't tell you the energy you feel when you walk into the house. When I walked into the last house that I bought, my partner and I, we were like, you know what? We could see ourselves living here. It's got a really positive feeling to it. I've gone into some homes with buyers where I'm like, out of here, guys. This house has some negative woohoo energy and it's haunted. There is something wrong with this house. You could just feel it within the house. That's emotion. And I can tell you, buyers buy by emotion. Most of them. Buyers desire to be in a very specific area, location, and a price. AI can't tell you that. They don't know that. They don't know that when you go onto this court, every house on this court has been beautifully maintained and there's all families that live there and everybody's out in the front playing and all the kids are nice and everybody makes eye contact with you and says hello. The AI can't tell you that. Again, emotion, specific location, very specific price. Buyers, they have a unique feature of a home that only that home can provide. That is very niche, and AI can't tell you niche when it comes to buying a property on that level. And here's one that might surprise all of you, but I have literally gone into so many homes. I always open the door and I let the buyer go in first because they're the one buying the home. And chances are I've already seen it because I got there earlier than them. And you walk in and you smell the home and you turn around and you walk back out because this is a key factor in purchasing a property. So you can obtain an estimated home valuation and you can obtain similar listings that might have sold, and it can help you determine the price, but it is not ultimately going to tell you what that property is worth. So there's other factors that go into this with the accurate pricing on House Sigma. I will get into this going forward in my next podcast because I think it's absolutely imperative that you understand all of these benchmarks that come into play when you are looking at a home. It's truly not just about the data. I think that it's very important for you to use the data. I think that it's very important from a negotiation standpoint that you can see what other properties are selling in the neighborhood. It's very important to see like to like. You can't compare a home on a court compared to a home on a major arterial road. You can't compare a bungalow to a 2-story house. Even if they're side by side on the same street, those are not the same factors. You can't compare finishes. You can't compare a house that's been completely renovated over here to a house that hasn't been renovated over here. These are factors that don't show up in AI, and these are factors that you have to determine when you are coming up with your final valuation on a property value. I hope that helps. Peace out. Click the link below and stay tuned for the next video. Ciao for now.